We're coming to you today from Druids Glen Hotel and Golf Resort. Here in Wicklow, one of the biggest and most controversial changes in recent years has been the development of Greystones Harbour. Quaint little Victorian harbour it was, and then someone got the bright idea to build a marina. Over €300 million has been spent on the project, which is now finally nearing completion, and the entire landscape around the town's harbour has changed. The 7-year construction process was a major issue locally, but I was wondering, is it still contentious now that it's nearly done? Our reporter Richard Chambers went to Greystones Marina yesterday to find out, and he's with me now. Richard, good morning.
Morning to you, Pat.
Now, a lot of people will remember the old Greystones Harbour and what was intended for it. What's happened since they started to develop it and then it all stopped?
It was sort of peak Celtic Tiger when they decided to do this, really, and that's sort of what really stands out about the old project and what it really represented. Now, the crash really set things back. Park developers who were there to really build all the homes in it, they had to pull out. The project was suspended then for a few years. A lot of hoardings and railings were up for years and years. It got back up and running between Wicklow County Council and Sisk developers, which put about €80 million into this project. It isn't just a harbour front now, just to explain to people who don't know Greystones. It's a complete restructuring, replacing that old Victorian harbour with 2 new piers, a massive harbour wall. In addition, you have a plaza, a park, a boardwalk, and of course the 358 apartments and houses,
which is supposed to finance the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, has work continued now since the hiatus?
Work is now progressing. It's progressed in stages, despite all of those hold-ups, and there have been many, many delays over the years, Pat. A lot of anger and upset in recent years about the concrete, which is the main issue. It is very grey still, about the hoardings that were up around the place, which sort of obstruct what was quite a spectacular sea view there. Now that the plaza, with all its trees, its nice new paving and its green areas are now in and they're fully open now, a lot of that is gone now. A lot of that hoarding is all gone. So I asked the locals around the harbour and the cliff walk what they thought of the development, and the opinion still seems to be quite keenly split.
I think it's lovely.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. I think it will make a big improvement to Greystones. Bring more money into Greystones. I think it's brilliant. We have to move on, and I think this is brilliant. And I'm very happy with it anyway.
I'm just dying for it to be finished. It cuts out so much of the view. As you're walking on the ground level, you don't see the mountains when you're up walking along the marina. I would have been kind of opposing it when it was in development. It doesn't look remotely like Dunleary, and it was supposed to, I suppose. Well, I think that was the idea. Pretty, it was small and lovely. It was just perfect the way it was. I thought it was one of the attractions for moving here for me.
Was it?
Sitting up there at that anchor with my husband and making the decision that we would move.
This is your home?
Here, yeah. Because I'm from Mayo and he's from Dublin, yeah. And now we can't see beyond the wall at the anchor. So all you can see is another concrete wall.
No, not really, no. We're Greystones, born and bred. I am. And the most beautiful memory I have of Greystones is when you used to be able to drive around and see the harbour here. And particularly on a Friday after school, the mums would be there with their kids and the uniforms tucked in to their underwear, and they'd be having chips and paddling away and stuff, and it was just beautiful. But
do you think they went too far the other way?
Yeah, plaza, we're not out in Spain.
Love it. They could definitely make sure the dog's dirt is cleaned up. It's everywhere. But yeah, it looks fabulous.
Oh, I love to see myself, yeah. This is my first time to do this walk.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, yes it is, yeah.
I did it on bank holiday weekend now and it was fabulous. Sure, where would you get it?
Where would you get it, indeed? So, some in favour, some against. I was wondering what it actually looked like. I mean, Greystones is called Greystones because the beach is all stony and the stones are grey. The concrete is grey too, so it doesn't match. What's it look like?
It's definitely improved though, Pat, I have to say, and the developers and the council admit that it is only still a work in progress. They have ideas for, the concrete huts for all of the new sailing clubs. 5 new clubs have been given state-of-the-art clubhouses as part of this. They're all together. They're all concrete. They're apparently going to be improved with some sculpture and all that. So they say it's a work in progress, but a lot of people are still quite aggrieved that it doesn't look quite the same as the initial artist impression. Which
they sold it with the artist impression and then
it just didn't happen quite there, at least not yet. Once it is completed, the plans do look quite spectacular. Once all those apartments are completed, once the boardwalk goes in, I think it will look a good deal better. Grey concrete buildings though, it isn't as aesthetically pleasing as it could be. Grainne McLoughlin, though, she's the Cllr of Greystones Municipal District. She showed me around the harbour. She thinks it is a really good thing for tourism in the town. She says there's been ups and downs across this whole process, but it's nearly at an end, and she thinks locals are now on side.
Last Sunday, I'd say there was about 5,000 people down here.
5,000?
It was like the festival in the old days. It was quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
We'll have a wander down here.
We'll have a wander down through the plaza here, yeah? Probably hard to imagine what this would turn out like when it was all being done.
Site,
of course.
And it was horrendous.
How long was it a building site for?
From 2007 right up to last year.
And I suppose it was hard for people to sort of imagine that it would turn out. I mean, obviously you see like a lot of new trees there.
Well,
the grass
is the first time we've had trees down the harbour, you know. So I mean, and the grass is coming. When the houses, as you can see, they're starting to build the houses now. There's 358 units going in between houses and apartments, and even for Greystones to have 358 houses being built, that must be the only story in the country that's building houses. You know? So at the moment we've had to divert the cliff walk because of the building of the house. So it's going around. It's going actually behind the actual building of the houses, but eventually it'll go straight down. Morning. So eventually it'll go all the way down. So here you have the marina. They started off with in 2013, 2014 with 100 berths. Last year they added another 60 because of demand. It is full, like 160. Yeah. So there was, I mean, obviously there's a lot of opposition to this, but I don't think, like, people think the council have given the land to CISC.
That's the main sort of concern, wasn't it? At least at the time, is that this was,
we are giving
public property which is handed over.
Yeah, well, the thing is that in 30 years' time, CISC have the management of it, right? But in 30 years' time, it comes back to us. But it is as it is. We're never going back. The majority of people, I think, are really behind it now and are enjoying it and can see the benefits of it. And certainly when it's all finished, when we get the final hoardings down, when we get the aesthetics finished in the harbour, I think people will grow to love it. And there's a new generation growing up here in Greystones. They'll have never seen anything else and they just absolutely adore it, you know. So it's like change. Some love it, some hate it. That's the way it is.
Some love it, some hate it. I wanted to come down last night to have a look at it, and I was on the N11, about to turn onto the N11, and there was a tailback for miles. There'd been an incident at Junction 5, and that brought the N11 to a standstill. Then this morning, coming here, going south on the N11, there was an incident just after the turnoff for Enniskerry going into town, and a tailback from the turnoff to Enniskerry all the way to the Delgany entrance. It's incredible that we can't manage. We hear about the M50 pile-ups and all the rest of it. We can't seem to manage.
And even as Ronnie was saying, there's 5,000 people were there last weekend, the first decent sort of weekend of the summer, and I'm sure the queues coming into Enniskerry town or Greystones were huge there as well. So that's probably going to be something we're going to see a lot of this summer as well.
Okay, now it's coming together according to Grainne. So what's the outstanding issue?
It's the same old lingering concerns, Pat, really. I mean, the attachment to the old harbour as well. I mean, talk to anybody and they'll tell you that it wasn't much use as a harbour in modern times, but there was an emotional sort of attachment to it. It had been a bit run down. Concerns then about the views as well. I mean, unfinished work and the boardwalk is there. I mean, it's just pylons at the minute. The company that wasn't there just left it, and it hasn't really been pushed on since then. I mean, it's due to be finished around 2020. That's when the park is meant to be put in as well. So a lot of outstanding stuff. Some of the stuff which really would lift it just hasn't gotten there yet. And I mean, Wicklow County Council says that they're going to take all these concerns on board and there will be an engagement process. However, for some, there's not a lot of faith in that, really. I spoke to Councillor Tom Fortune and first Basil Miller of the Give Us Back Our Harbour group.
Dilapidated and all as the old harbour was scenic, and it was a community facility, not just for boaters. It's not ours. We don't feel that it's ours, that it belongs to the community, that it has much to do with the community. And for every person you'll find sitting on one of the benches and enjoying the sunshine or taking a walk around here, you'll find 10 who won't even come down here anymore.
Do you think is that almost sort of a boycott then, or
they just don't want to see it? They don't want to see it. They were habitués of the old harbour and they do not want to have to look at this thing even. I do take a drink in here from time to time, but if I have to be in the front where the windows are, I always sit with my back to this. I don't want to look out and see it. It is really horrible.
Councillor Tom Fortune, a member of Wicklow County Council and also a member of the Greystones Municipal District. I think we have what we have. A lot of people would argue that it's fantastic, and that's fine. People are entitled to say that. But equally, you're entitled to say, well, hang on a minute. By any stretch of the imagination, Richard, it doesn't look like what was drawn up. Now, maybe it will in time.
Even the parking, I mean, this isn't the car park. How is there only 40 spaces in a car park, which is meant to, be a focal point almost to Greystones?
No, it's a very good question. I mean, I get criticised for the people tell you you're being negative, but you're not being negative. All you're doing is saying, hang on a minute, there's an element of this where the Emperor doesn't have any clothes. And when you ask questions, if you were being given questions, and we were told to be proper letters put out about it, but that really hasn't happened either. It's like pulling teeth. Look, I don't have to say that to you. You can see it yourself. The way it is, and I mean, it's great, and a lot of people will think the facility is really, really, really good, and that's fine. It's a bit of an ugly looking thing at the end of the day.
Ugly looking thing at the end of the day. Sounds like the lexicon in Dunleary, the same kind of row. Some people love it, some people hate it, and monstrosity or a thing of beauty. The locals would be divided on this. What did you think? Did you like it?
I wouldn't be sort of a yachty sort of type as well to be hanging around marinas and the likes, but I was quite impressed with it. But I do see, after it was being pointed out to me, all the different concerns. I mean, it does need to be a good bit deal of more finishing on a lot of the stuff there.
All right, well, Richard, thank you for that report. You're heading back to Greystones actually on a different mission.
A much more sombre note this time, of course. Baby Alana, who was found dead in that Green Star recycling plant in Bray last week, she's being laid to rest this afternoon, so it'll be a very, very sombre occasion. Gardaí and Green Star workers will be there to pay their final respects.
To pay their final respects. Richard, thank you very much. Coming up next, Inheritance.